very few people have made one discovery in the Athabasca. Very few, okay? Nobody's made two, or we've made three.
Welcome to Proven and Probable. I'm Maurice Jackson, and I'm delighted to have you here today. Before we begin today's video, make sure you give us a thumbs up and leave a comment in the comment section below. And as always, we thank you for your continued support. And just a reminder, we sell physical precious metals through Miles Franklin Precious Metals Investments. We offer physical delivery to your home, precious metal IRAs, and Brinks depository accounts. You can reach me at 855-505-1900. That's 855-505-1900. Or you may email Maurice@milesfranklin.com. That's Maurice@milesfranklin.com. Welcome to Proven and Probable. I'm Maurice Jackson. Today's guest is a prominent tycoon in the energy sector. He has led multiple companies as a CEO, from startups to spinouts, discovering some of the highest grade uranium deposits in the world. Joining us for a conversation is Mr. Dev Randhawa, CEO at F3 Uranium, with a continued focus on uranium discovery and development. Mr. Randhawa, thank you for joining us today, sir.
Well, thanks for having me on, Maurice. Always good to chat with you.
Well, it's an honor to have you on the program, sir. Mr. Randhawa, your pedigree is that of legend in the uranium sector. Now, you've received multiple awards for your company's successes, and I know you're a modest person, but for audience members who may not be familiar with your history, would you please introduce yourself and share some of the highlights you've been a part of in the uranium sector?
Sure. Well, I don't think it's modesty. It's realizing it takes teams. Running a public company, you have to balance raising money and putting it to good use. So it's like a bicycle. You raise money, you achieve a milestone, they give you more money, but you got to have people. And I've been very fortunate to work with great people like Ross McElroy, Raymond Ashley, Sam Hartman, and our team now that we've had, including Rich Matthews and Jamie Bannerman. You got to have a team around you. So I think that's more the issue, whether you're modest or not. But I go back to 1996 when uranium was $7 a pound. And some two smart people encouraged me to go down this path, which was Rick Rule, you're a fan of, and the late Lucas Lundin. So, you don't have to always be the smartest guy in the room, but you better know who is. And so that's what, I was able to do, is be able to listen. And obviously we had our ups and downs because uranium shot up for a while, then it went back down, then we had Breach. But when we had that big run, we had a company called Strathmore, and it went from 1.6 million in market cap to eventually over $500 million on the same group of assets. So it just showed you what the value of assets. But uranium went from 7 to 140, and we were very, we were lucky to be given the golden touch by Eric Sprott and Philip Richard for RAB in the UK. So with that kind of support in the whole uranium space, it was great. But at the top of it, we spun out the Canadian assets at the advice of Peter Grosskopf, who started SPUT eventually, to have it strictly focused on exploration in the basin. It became Fission Energy, which I refer to as F1. And so the other parts got sold to Energy Fuels eventually. So, and then we were able to attract Sumitomo into Strathmore, which went with Energy Fuels. Then we were able to attract a Korean Electric Power Company. We put 100 grand in, they put 15 million in, and we eventually sold our piece for about 78 million to Lucas Lundin in Denison Mines. We took those non-core assets, which became Fission Uranium, FCU, we call F2. That was just recently before Christmas here. You saw the announcement Paladin finished the takeover. When it started the process, it was 1.1 billion. So that was the non-core assets of F1, became F2. And then we took the other non-core assets, became F3. And Ray and Sam made the discovery of what's called the JR Zone now. And that's where we are as F3. So Really, it's about adding value to your shareholders. When management and shareholders are aligned, you get a better chance of achieving success. Um, the That's where we are today. We've always been focused on the Athabasca. The Athabasca is different than the rest of the world. Um, but we've got people who are very experienced in it, working for Cameco before. They understand the two types of projects at the unconformity in the basement, what to look for. So, but really, it's just we're on to F3, and the name it says itself. Yes, along the way we won, Ross won Prospector of the Year. I won Dealmaker, and we were mining people of Canada. But it's really about building the team, and that's where I think my strength is to recognize that where I'm short, what skills I don't have, find the best people, incentivize them. For example, I even with Ross back in FCU, my salary was barely, a fraction bigger than him. I wanted him to know he was as valuable as I was, even though I was a CEO and chairman.
Well, truly commendable and quite the resume, sir. Now, before delving into F3 uranium and the bonanza grade uranium that your team just discovered last week, would you provide us with an update on the current state of uranium and what are some of the supply and demand fundamentals right now that have your attention that investors might be overlooking?
Well, it's been a perfect storm. We just haven't seen that perfect storm show up in the spot price early on. Last couple of years ago, it jumped to 105, all the excitement, and then it's drifted back to around 65, 70. So people are wondering, but the math speaks for itself. Unlike gold, unlike copper, lithium, and every other commodity, uranium industry is a very simple mathematically. You got so many reactors that we are using right now. They're using a certain number of pounds every year, and you know how many reactors are being built. Boom, you know what the number is. So every year we're going to need at least 200 million pounds, but we're producing about 140, 150. So there's always going to be a shortage. Where is it going to come from? And then you've got obviously the bigger demand for power. Whether it's AI, whether it's electric cars, you know, you saw some of the announcements in the last year where 3 Mile Island, Microsoft's going to buy all their power that comes from there. You saw Amazon. The other wild card, which I hope is the SMR, small modular reactors. They're smaller, easier to build, and you can add to them. You can build one and add. I think Germany, the poster child of green naivety, whatever you want to call it. They were trying to go green and they wasted a lot of money. They set aside $1 trillion to hopefully do 3,900 kilometers connecting windmills and solar panels together. They spent that money and they got 39 kilometers done, 1% of their goal. And where the money gone, I don't know. But the point is that Germany now has to rebuild its structure rather than using natural gas from other places. It's one of the reasons all of Europe, if you watch the currency of the euro, it's like this. I don't know if I can show that.
Yes.
US dollar keeps doing this, euro keeps doing this, because part of it's energy. It's part of energy efficiency. You've got to have your own supply. You know, but those countries haven't done it. So I'm hoping that Germany will wake up and go, okay, we're not going to build big reactors, but let's build small ones. And then you obviously Rolls Royce, you saw, Bill Gates, and so there's a perfect storm for it, but it's not showing up in the spot price. And I think that's why the market's being dragged down. Like, our friend Rick always says, you're a contrarian or you're a victim. Well, I think right now there's a great opportunity to buy some of these big stocks like Cameco and NextGen, things like that are really beat up. And yet the future is very, very bright. But obviously, we need a higher spot price to ignite it. But I think it's a perfect storm, but these fundamentals are not showing up yet into the stocks and the spot price, just like with gold. Gold's over 3,000, but you wouldn't know it looking at the gold equities.
Well, you discussed perfect storm. Let's discuss the sunlight, and that would be an F3 uranium. So now that we have a better understanding of the current state of uranium, sir, take us into the Athabasca Basin in Saskatchewan, Canada, which hosts the highest grade uranium deposits in the world. And please introduce us to F3 uranium and the exciting opportunity your company presents to the market.
Well, F3, exactly that. It's the great grandson of Strathmore, grandson of Fission Energy, and the son of FCU. It's the same team. We've been together for a while. Um, you know, very few people have made one discovery in the Athabasca. Very few. Okay, nobody's made two. Well, we've made three. The J Zone back end, which is sold to Denison. The Triple R Zone, which we sold to, so the first one was Denison, second one Paladin, and now we're on to F3, and now we call it the JR Zone. And so this shows you the track record. So, in a sports thing, would you rather give the ball to a 30-year-old Tom Brady to throw it, or somebody else? So I think it's a good team. We're well financed. What we discovered was a pot of uranium called the JR Zone, which we put out for Christmas 4 meters at 50%. So 2% uranium is like 1 ounce of gold, 28 grams. So imagine me making an announcement if I was a gold company, 4 meters or 12 feet of 25 ounces per gold. That's what it would be. Imagine that news release if it was gold. So a lot of people don't have that equivalent, but roughly 2% uranium is 1 ounce of gold. So imagine putting those kinds of numbers out, right? But the Athabasca averages 1 ounce of gold wherever we go, just simply the high grades that are there. So the Athabasca is also we've had 70 years of uranium experience. So it's not like you can say, not my backyard. There'll always be issues coming from somewhere that we have to be aware of. But overall, we're not in Niger. You saw what happened there. That's a nice mine you have. We're taking it. So you're seeing. You saw what happened in gold and other places. In Africa, take it away. There's just that lack of, but in the Athabasca, it produces a lot of good jobs, and it's worked very well for that province. So it's a good district in that sense legally, but also it's it's got the infrastructure. When somebody I've been on trips up there.
Yes, sir.
You fly to Fort McMurray, 45 minutes, you're on the property. Back out, and you're done. Away you go. The infrastructure is phenomenal on the west side. Plus, we have a road that connects us. The next gen's Arrow is just over here. There's Triple R, and there's a road that goes up 365 days a year. And that's the other thing. We can't speak of how many pounds we have, but I know these pounds are valuable because they're averaging up to 4%. All right, that's 2 ounces of gold we're averaging on our drill holes where we have uranium. But we know that when our project is finished drilled out, that there's this mill that NextGen or Paladin will build. One of them will build one, if not both of them. So when they're running out of ore in 10, 12 years, we will have a place to take our ore. So these pounds are valuable because we're going to be close to a mill. But that's, we just, and we can talk about it if this is a time, but this property, the PLN, is a large, large property. It's got lots of, all uranium has to come through a conductor, all of them, but not all conductors have high grade uranium. So you have to find the conductors and which have the high grade. And we know that there's A1, we call it, has, obviously got that big pot of uranium. We're trying to see where it goes, but we've got A2, A3, B1, B2. I mean, there's a lot of conductors that we think could be pregnant with high grade uranium.
You referenced three world-class deposits that your team has been able to discover here, and that puts you in that category that Rick Rule calls the serially successful, and that is quite an accomplishment, big feather in your cap. Let's get into last week's press release, if we can, where F3 hits anomalous radioactivity 12 kilometers south of the JR Zone on the Broach property. Sir, take us on site and share the exciting news on your team's recent discovery.
Yeah, it's anomalous. It's not high grade. I want to be upfront about that. But it's what we refer to our business as smoke. Before you find the fire, you have to find smoke. You never hit fire right away. You always lead. You follow the smoke, and you hit. That's what happened in Triple R, the Paladin owns. We had hit a little fraction of gold. Of uranium, and we thought, that's interesting, was smoke. It was anomalous. Then we looked around elsewhere. We came back 5 meters over, bang, hit the high grade, and the project just got better after that. And so we're excited because it's so far away, which means it just shows you blue sky. As you know, people buy stocks for not what you've done, but what the blue sky could be. So it's a whole new area for us to explore. We're drilling it as we speak, and we now have an idea, some other ideas. That's the advantage of a very strong team. When they get a sniff, they go after it pretty hard. And we've got, about 20 million bucks in the bank. We can raise money fairly quickly because of our pedigree. So we're well funded, pretty tight, lean team, and this is a brand new area for us. Over the next 2 or 3 weeks, as we continue to drill, we'll hopefully have some more news to the market.
Now, how do these latest drill results impact F3's market position and attractiveness to investors?
Well, it has moved the stock up because it's showing blue sky. One of the, people always see this pod of uranium, but they want to see it's a system on the PLN. This, if we can find another pod here, will show that it's a system. Then you have blue sky, the people will continue to buy. That's why some stocks do better than others. When people think you've limited out, your stock tends to drift. But if you continue to show blue sky, which we are now, that's why the stocks recovered from that, 18, 17 cents up to 21, 22.
Which is still a very, very attractive price, and that's why we have you here. We want to reward our subscribers here at Proven and Probable with the value proposition before the market wakes up, and they will wake up. It's not you've referenced Richard Matthews. One of the things we've always discussed about F3 uranium is that it's not an if proposition, it's a when proposition. And if you have a when proposition, it's a win proposition. I hope that made sense to everyone listening there.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. Yeah, he's right. I mean, you count on certain guys if they're well funded, right? And they have the right team, and you have a project with blue sky, it is a question of when. Because it is just a very big property. And look at location, is right next to Next Gen, right next to Paladin. So if you find something, there are two buyers right there who'll want to tie that area up. You can go to if we find more. We know we got to add more size, but if we had size, this company would be gone, I suspect, sold. But right now we have to show that it's not a one-trick pony, that we've got blue sky. If this area shows blue sky, I can see good things happening.
Does the new discovery at Broach Lake change the direction of your current drilling strategy?
We have money to do both, but for sure we're going to put some effort over here because we think we're onto something. But that's the whole wonderful thing, and we have money to do both if we need to. If we can raise more money, the hardest right now in a downward market we've got right now is how do you raise hard money? Well, we got 17 million of it, so we got 7, 8 years or 10 years of covering our overhead, and flow through money, as you know, is much easier to raise because you're in a Canadian project than it is to raise hard money if you're in the U.S. or South America or somewhere else.
Yes, sir. Now, what work is your team currently conducting on site, and what can we expect in terms of news flow in the coming months?
We're drilling right now as we speak. We're drilling on Broach. We go back and forth depending on results. We follow the geology. If it's saying there's smoke here, we're going over there. So we'll go back and forth as we need to. All depends on budgeting. The other thing we got to be aware of, obviously, is that You can put out great results, and it doesn't mean stocks go up. Unfortunately, in a bear market, it's often just an opportunity for people to sell stocks, and stock stays where it is. But in this case, we're lucky the stock moved up because of a brand new area, and that's giving investors, hey, it's not just a pod; it could be a system. If it's a system, we'll be rewarded.
Well, add me to the ladder. I'm going to be actively buying, and I've been a shareholder, full disclosure here, since 2016. So I'm a very proud shareholder, familiar with the team, honored to be part of the team. In closing, sir, what keeps you up at night that we don't know about?
Well, I think business-wise, you always worry about the spot price. You worry that you're not going to keep finding uranium, but been doing it since, like I said, 96, and that's a lot of years, almost 3 decades of banging my head. But there was a time I used to go to conferences before 2005. It was like the redheaded stepchild going to these conferences, and you're like, you don't fit in. No one believes that uranium is going to be needed. People would just give you these weird looks. Of course, we were vindicated when uranium shot to 140. But that's the reality, is that you're contrarian or you're a victim. We do the same thing corporately. When times are tough, we start buying other assets. And that's what we're looking at now, is what maybe we can buy something that's not being funded. But we are using computers as well, AI, trying to figure out, are there things we've missed? Are there human errors made? So we're doing various different things. Just to set you back, to give you an idea, there would be no next gen, no FCU, no Paladin, none of that. If somebody doesn't fly an airplane at treetop level, that's only about 20, 30 feet off the ground, and sense the boulders on that side of the basin. You got to keep in that there was a time, the Bibles of the uranium industry, which is written by chemicals, they were the ones who found it, that there's all the uranium they felt was always on the east side, Cigar Lake, McLean, and that makes sense. And there's nothing on the west side. That was number one. Number two, they said there's no uranium except inside the Athabasca. However, our guys thought maybe what we see today is the Athabasca Basin is not what it was. Maybe the glaciers have moved, and that's exactly what we found. We found these boulders. We went to the other side of the basin, found these boulders, which led to Triple R, which then, a year later, the next gen was found. It was that kind of innovative thinking that allowed us to even develop. Now, look, because of that effort of flying that airplane close to the ground, you have 500 million pounds have been found, super high grade, in the Athabasca. So you need that kind of team, and that's this team. This is Ray, this is Sam, that said, okay, let's try these things. So that's the team you've got. It's a very imaginative team, very disciplined team. But that's what you got to do. If you do what everybody else has done, that's different. You get the same results. We're lucky to have a very team with a good track record, but with imagination, which you need when you're trying to solve other problems everybody else is trying to do.
Oh, good synergies there. And you referenced conference, and we've discussed Rick Rule. I had the distinct honor last year of introducing you at the Rule Symposium. Big feather in my cap. Thank you for that, sir. And my question is, will F3 be an exhibitor this year at the Rule Symposium?
Absolutely. Loyalty is pretty important to us, and Rick was the one that stuck his neck out for me back in 1996, so I'll always be supporting him. And plus, what I like is that his followers are smart people.
Yes, sir.
They see through the crap, they see through the promotion. They're very smart people. He's teaching people how to fish rather than just handing them fish, which I like.
Oh, good analogy. And by the way, if you have not registered for the Rule Symposium, below this video, we'll have a link there in the description box. Last question for you, sir. What did I forget to ask?
There's not much. I think we've covered the company and the thing. Sorry, the commodity itself, the project, and the people. I would just encourage people to be brave. Like Warren Buffett says, be scared when people are greedy, but be greedy when people are scared. This is the time to be buying well-managed companies that are well-financed. Stay away from companies that have to finance themselves to going forward. because everybody's competing for the same dollar. And if you don't have a track record, you're not going to get that money. Those stocks will continue to slide. The ones that bounce back are the ones that are well financed, well managed, and a track record. Those are things to look for when you're picking stocks.
Great words of wisdom. Mr. Randhawa, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today. Wishing you and F3 Uranium the absolute best, sir.
Thank you, sir.
The information presented on Proven and Probable is provided for educational and informational purposes only, without any express or implied warranty of any kind, including warranties of accuracy, completeness, or fitness for any particular purpose. The information is not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, or trading advice, or any other advice. You should not make any financial, investment, or trading decision based on any of the information presented without first undertaking independent due diligence and consultation with a professional broker or competent financial advisor.